I use, yeah, no. I don't have any on right now, but I use the brand that she recommended. So it's really a part of I'm a part of her every day, I hope, and she's a part of my every day as well, yes.
Oh, okay. Can you not? Oh, for someone?
Oh, wait, this isn't going to be good at all.
It doesn't matter.
1, 2, 3. Oh, I'm in. There we go. Oh, I don't know. I'm so bad at this. I'm like a disaster at the tech. Okay. No, that one's not good enough. Okay. For the mark. Okay. Oh, that one's better. But still, there's work to be done. Oh, that one's the best. See, you guys look cute, and I'm off to the side. Oh, but it doesn't matter.
Maybe if you use your left hand, would that be better?
I don't think we're going to go in next. We are in the front row. Everybody behind us.
Too much of it.
Let's do it after.
I signed up for this retreat 6 months ago because these long weekends fill up sometimes a year in advance. Turns out if you want the opportunity to practice living in the moment, you have to plan way ahead of time. A typical mindfulness meditation retreat is basically dividing your time between sitting in silence, walking in silence, and eating in silence. It's not new agey woo-woo with aromatherapy and chakra readings. But it's also not some strict monastic thing where you sleep on the ground and live on moss or something. You show up, you sit and breathe, you try to quiet or at least observe the hamster wheel of your mind, and mostly you fail, but you try. Might sound crazy, but the trying feels good. I've done it before, and I spent one summer in college as a Zen nun in Japan, so I knew what I was getting into when I applied. Hal signed up for this retreat first. That's what inspired me, actually. Hal and I met about 10 years ago, singing together in a community chorus. Our connection, right off, was the platonic ideal of a male-female friendship when you're each married to other people. Lots of chemistry, but zero electricity. At the first rehearsal, we made up secret agent names for the entire alto section based on their shoes. Sneaky McSneak, Cowboy Wrangler, Knee-High Sly. By the time of the concert, we had this whole narrative where they prevented Canada from invading Seattle. Hal wrote a little song to honor them, and singing it's become an annual tradition. He also made up this game with me where he'll improvise the first line of a limerick. Say, there was a bald-headed soprano. And then I have to come up with something like, who smelled like Parmigiano. If I can make him laugh, I get a prize, usually a little origami figure. He's really good at origami. My husband once said, I think you and Hal have little crushes on each other, but it doesn't bother me because it's like how 5-year-olds have crushes. And he might have been right. Our inner children have always played really well together in the sandbox. A few years after we met, I got divorced. A few years after my divorce, after a long illness, Hal's wife passed away. We had each other's backs for the tough stuff, all the tough stuff. He's the person I called when I was the victim of a scam. I'm the one he called when he got pneumonia. Once we were both single, our friendship didn't change. Except, okay, it got a little codependent once he was widowed. I'm a problem solver, and he suddenly had problems that needed solving because he can't keep milk in the fridge without help. I mean, he'll buy a round of drinks for the table and then leave his wallet behind. And whoever finds it hands it off to me because everyone knows I'm the one who's going to see Hal next. New acquaintances sometimes assume we're an item, and some longtime friends assume you'll become one. And even though it's still lots of chemistry but zero electricity, I get why they think that. But I haven't been the only caretaker in his life. For decades, he and his wife were the power couple at their church. I mean, after the minister and his wife, of course. And his church is a big support. I'm not an organized religion kind of person. That's probably the biggest difference between us. When his wife was still alive, I helped out at a fundraiser for refugees that she organized, and it had a great vibe, but also lots of Jesus. I think they could tell that part was out of my comfort zone. But they seemed tickled that I was leaning in. Their church had always been a big part of their identity. So I'm really surprised when Hal tells me about a year after his wife's passing, by the way, I left my church. Really? Why? Too many committee meetings. It was feeling like a job. Actually, I've heard him complain about that before, so I probably shouldn't be too surprised. But a few weeks later, he wants to tell me more. A lot more. In a long conversation, he confides in me about the religious evolution of Hal, starting from early on. You know, my grandfather was a minister, so I grew up with it. And then my wife was very devout, and I didn't want to disappoint her. But there's always been a spark of rational humanism in me. And I found that part of me clamoring for more air. And also, I guess I'm not an organized religion kind of person anymore. But I think I'm agnostic instead of atheist, because agnostic leaves the door open to the unexpected. And I'm ready to really open myself up to the unexpected. He says a lot more, detailed and deep. But where he's going is that he's found he's had to move on from the limitations of conventional religion in order to be his truest self, which means leaving behind some very nice people who just don't get me anymore. You can relate to that, right? Yeah. Yeah, I can relate. During this confessional, I'm wondering if his wanting to make sure that I know about it might mean something. Maybe a year into his widowhood, he's thinking about the future and partnership. We're no longer young, and even though there's no sexy spark between us, we know each other well enough to rage against the dying of the light together. Our inner children are definitely never going to get tired of playing in that sandbox. Shortly after Hal was widowed, as a thought experiment, I tried to imagine kissing him. I couldn't stop giggling. Not, ooh, that'd be great, but oh, that would feel like incest. But it had occurred to me to try that thought experiment. We have the same hobbies and interests, singing our little narrative hijinks, playing folk music, often with Hal's daughter Sydney, who's a good guitarist. We like the same board games, the same authors, the same kind of weather. And man, can we make each other laugh. I can talk to him about anything. My dysfunctional family, professional jealousy. He'll listen to me vent about something, and then like a really affectionate puppy dog sort of nudge me in the shoulder and make a joke about something completely unrelated to what's upsetting me. And suddenly I'm less upset. For 10 years, all that's been awesome. Even better than awesome, it's been enough. But this bearing and sharing of his soul, this is even more than enough. Yeah, I'd go there with him. The next day, I accidentally find out the real story, which is Hal got thrown out of his church because he slept with the minister's wife. It happened months ago. The minister filed for divorce, and then a cone of silence was placed over the whole, affair. So now, months after it's all over, no one knows it even happened. Not even Hal's daughter, Sydney. Sydney's this shy college senior I've developed a sort of auntie relationship with. She's a good kid. I like her a lot. Freakishly good at Trivial Pursuit, too. My finding out really is an accident. Just somebody else's well-intentioned slip of the tongue because they'd assumed he'd confided in me. Because we're so close. Everyone knows how close Hal and I are. When I find out the truth, I feel three things all at once. First, shock that my famously decent and severely suburban friend Hal would go there, though of course grief can make you do stupid things. Second, embarrassment that I'd misread the subtext of his revelation and thought he was revealing a new kind of interest that I would have responded to. In a romance novel, this would be the biggest thing, but in reality, it's just a garnish on the side of the third feeling, which is by far the biggest. Hurt and confusion that I'd been targeted for an unnecessary dupe. I feel duped. It's humiliating. That's what hurts. What he said was true. I think he is a rational humanist, and he sometimes meditates, which is why he signed up for this retreat. But he told me all the truthful things, not to be as truthful as possible, but to sell me one specific lie. Why? That was a big lie. It took an hour to deliver it. I email him to let him know that I know. First, I express compassion at the tumult he must have gone through, and then also say I feel hurt and confused because I feel duped. Not because he covered it up, of course, but by how intimate and confiding he'd made the cover-up. He writes back, distraught and offensive that I know about this thing he thought was in his rearview mirror. But once he realizes I'm not judging him and I still value our friendship, he calms down. He apologizes for lying. We meet for a drink. It feels good to sit across from him and talk, like always, about all and everything. A friend's messy divorce, a musical Sydney's doing in college. And best of all, hey, there once was a man from Wyoming who wished he could do some beach combing. Sorry, that was lame. No, that was good. Thanks. Just for clarity, I've always had a sort of mental guardrail against anything romantic happening between us, and I've always assumed it's mutual, but I'm just checking. You do not need to worry about me going past the guardrail. Good, thanks. I have a question for you then, if that's all right. Why that big lie? I'd already bought your cover story of Too Many Committee Meetings, so why the whole involved spiritual seeker aria? You know, if you were a good friend, you'd offer me charity and let it go. Charity is a very churchy word, so under the circumstances, it kind of sticks out. But then I realize he's embarrassed. He's already told me how embarrassing it is, how he just wants to move past it and get on with his life. And he's got a point. As a good friend, I should be charitable about that. As we give each other a hug goodbye, I say, we never have to have this conversation again. And he kind of laughs. When I get home, I write the word charity on a little card to offer as a kind of apology, because I want him to know that I get it. This charity card is my pledge to be his ally and let the past go. I decide to give it to him at the end of the retreat. And even though you don't really hang out with someone at a silent meditation retreat, I'm glad we're about to have this shared experience. It feels wholesome. We'll have a lot to talk about afterwards. Then, a few days later, he calls me. He doesn't sound like himself at all. He starts off by saying, I do not have, nor have I ever had, any romantic feelings for you. To which I reply, All right. Then he says, this friendship has given me a lot over the years, but I just can't be friends with you anymore because you showed such a lack of compassion and kindness by insisting that I explain myself to you. Sounds like he's reading it off a cue card. I wonder what's going on up here. You did something not cool to me, but the friendship has to end because I'm the bad guy? In a weary monotone, he says it again. I express confusion. He says it again. I stay calm, but my mind is racing, trying to think of something to de-escalate this, some abracadabra that'll fix things. Fixing things is really important to me. I'm not proud of that. I'm not saying it's healthy, but it's what I do. You know, given our history, this seems like a disproportionate response to a single conversation. I have to protect myself from your lack of compassion. You want to take a month off and check back in then? No, this has to be indefinite. You know, our paths are still going to overlap, right? I know, at the meditation retreat, so I need distance. I'm actually thinking of chorus rehearsals and regular social events. I mean, it's a silent meditation retreat. We're all supposed to be ignoring each other anyhow, right? In fact, in all the communication, they ask you to avoid proximity with people you know. Look, Hal, you know what a problem solver I am. Isn't there anything I can do to help you feel better? I mean, other than never try to talk to you again? I have to do this to protect myself from you. I appreciate your understanding. Thank you for this phone call. Okay, goodbye. I am more dumbfounded than if I'd been dumped by a lover. Who breaks up a friendship? When his wife got ill, I'm the one who set up the Caring Bridge website. Once she passed away, I helped Sydney clean the house and put up Christmas decorations so they could host a holiday party. Just last month, we traveled together for a creative project of mine that I'd invited him to join. 10 days on the road together. So much fun. So now, a few days after he cancels me, we each arrive here at the meditation center. It's an hour before the gong will sound to signify the beginning of 3 days of noble silence. But first, there's dinner where people can talk and socialize. I keep my distance from Hal, which feels clumsy and awkward and unnatural because it is. I don't know anybody else here. The tables are pretty crowded and he's bantering with some woman sitting next to him. Everyone else's vibe is, you know, we're preparing ourselves for 3 days of silent meditation. Their vibe is, let's go out for ice cream after. I know that vibe because that's our vibe. That's what we do. I mean, it's mostly Hal's vibe, but for 10 years, whenever Hal's been howling in my presence, he does it with me. Jeez, couldn't he be a little more discreet about finding a new bestie so fast? He knows I'm right here in the room with him. They rise from the table and cross past me to the dishwashing station to be trained for service there. At most meditation retreats, you sign up for hands-on service like vacuuming the halls or serving breakfast. Dishwashers work alone together in a pair. But the center asked us to avoid proximity with people we know, so unless Hal and his buddy met at the sign-up board and instantly bonded, they already know each other and are ignoring the center's ethos. But that doesn't sound like Hal. He likes the people in charge to know what a good boy he is. I edge my way over to the sign-up board and look under dishwashing. I find Hal. Next to him is Priscilla Yelverton, the minister's wife. Well, at least now I understand the purpose of the phone call. I guess Hal forgot I know how to read. But I think this deception is also aimed at her. He's not just hiding her from me. I think he's hiding me from her. Our friendship has to be erased in service to something that requires erasing a friendship. At a mindfulness meditation retreat. I take out my phone, 2 minutes until the gong sounds. I have to talk to someone. I have to talk to someone. I'm a word person. I have to talk to someone. Hal is the only person I know in the room. And there's no service in here. But I remember when I arrived, there was a spot out on the front porch that got service. I rushed past the other diners, through the entry hall, and out to the front porch, texting as I go, which is so not mindful, to ask a friend about the affair, if the minister's wife is still using Yelverton as her last name. Though what are the chances that Hal's flirting with 2 different Priscilla Yelvertons? I find the spot and press send, and pray that my friend answers, and I'm staring and staring. The gong sounds to herald the noble silence. No texts, no talking, no phones. Just 3 days of silence in a meeting hall and dining room and corridors and walking paths with them. I go back inside and make my way with everyone else to the main hall. Hal and the minister's wife each pass within a few yards of me. Am I allowed to feel upset about this? It's not like we're in a romantic relationship. He's not cheating on me as a partner. Does that mean he bears no responsibility for the sick feeling in the pit of my stomach? I register not one syllable of the opening teachings that evening. Achieve not 1 microsecond of mindfulness while sitting in meditation. And don't sleep all night because my mind is racing and racing and racing. I can't believe you haven't learned anything from the last time. Once again, you gratuitously deceive me about something that has nothing to do with me. But then I find out the truth, not because I care about the thing, but because you shove it under my nose. I keep running it through my head, trying to convince myself I'm misinterpreting the situation. I'm trying to imagine how you would explain yourself if we were actually having this conversation. But though we're famous for finishing each other's sentences, I mean, I literally finish your limericks for you, I can't imagine what you would say now. Surely no one is dense enough to try an unnecessary dupe. And then when they get found out, try another unnecessary dupe on the same person about the same thing. Who does that? That's not emotionally stupid. It's stupid. You're a smart man. Why do you keep doing that? Unless I am misreading the situation. And the problem here is me, my perception. I must be feeling really judgy toward you in a way that I don't want to look at. So I'm projecting all my selfish negativity onto you, my well-meaning friend who's just trying to have a bereavement-fueled secret romance in peace. All my conditioning, as a stepdaughter, as an ex-wife, as a woman, really, all my conditioning tells me that whatever distress I'm feeling about this must somehow be my fault, and not one bit the responsibility of the incredibly charming, sweet, and generally well-meaning widower who lied to me about something crappy you did to other people. But by breakfast, I'm pretty sure at least part of it is on you. Too agitated to eat. And now I have to turn over my breakfast tray to you. I can't. But I don't know what to do with my tray. My mind is racing. I can't think straight. So I go into the front office because I don't even know why I do that. I just know I don't want to turn over my dishes to you and the woman you ended our friendship for. I'm really embarrassed about this. I was a Zen nun in Japan. Needing help with this makes me feel like a mediocre Buddhist. The office manager is very sweet. Hi, how can I help you? 2 people who once had an adulterous affair are here washing dishes together, and it bothers me. So is there maybe somewhere else I could drop my tray off? She gives me a funny look and says, why don't you use the red phone? What's the red phone for? It dials the retreat support team. What? That seems extreme. This is exactly the kind of thing the red phone is for. I was a Zen nun, so I think I know what they're gonna say. They're gonna use Buddhist speak to tell me that emotions are ego-based, and this is an opportunity to disengage from the ego that's feeling pain. And then I'll be stuck with the hurt, plus the embarrassment that I needed help, plus the humiliation that the professional Buddhist told me to get over it. Okay, honey. When you pick it up, it automatically dials the retreat support team. A retreat support counselor named Craig comes to the office. He is calm and so nondescript I forget what he looks like even while I'm looking at him. He guides me into a private office and asks, "How can I help you today?" A close friend broke off our friendship to keep me from knowing he's getting re-involved with somebody he had an affair with. But I found out about it because they're here washing dishes together. And I just want to turn over my dishes somewhere where I don't have to look at them. God, that sounds so pathetic. Was this a person that you've been romantically involved with? No. That's why I'm confused. I'm upset, but I don't understand why I'm so upset. May I offer you some tissues? Of course you're upset. Coming from a friend, that kind of attitude is an act of betrayal. There it is. The word I needed but thought I couldn't use because we aren't a couple. But our emotional intimacy runs deep and long, and you've disowned it for convenience. That sucks. Craig validates the suckiness instead of dismissing it as I'd expected. You can take your dishes to the front office, and the receptionist will take them to the kitchen for you. Wow, that's so kind. I encourage you to use the red phone again as often as you need. Oh, no. Now that the dishes thing is resolved, I'm sure I'll be fine. Thanks. I go back to the hall. I sit. I can't believe you're doing the same thing all over again. I mean, what the hell? Okay, so you pushed me away to keep me from knowing about her, or keep her from knowing about me. That's deceptive, but at least it makes sense. But I can't understand why you thought that wackadoodle phone call was the way to get there. How was it supposed to work? Was I supposed to, get emotional? So you could say, I told her I wasn't attracted to her, and she got so reactive, obviously I have to keep my distance. Is that why you kept saying the same thing over and over again? I have to protect myself from your lack of compassion. I have to protect myself from your lack of compassion. As if you were feeding me my cue, and I was refusing to play the role you were trying to cast me in, the hysterical female. What would have happened if I'd done the polar opposite? What if I'd said, this doesn't sound like you, Hal, and you're not making a lot of sense, so I'm just going to call your psychologist brother and let him know what's going on because I'm worried about you. Come on, you know me, I'm a problem solver. I'm not going to flip out, I'm going to try to fix it. You know that, yet you try a tactic that only works if I flip out. That doesn't make any sense. Unless the phone call wasn't your idea. Oh, did she find out about our friendship and force you to call me? You had no choice. You had to do it because she was going to abandon you unless you forswore my friendship because she felt threatened by how important I am to you. Yeah, no, let's cross that one off the list. Look, I don't care if you're sleeping with her. I just want you to hang out with me. There was a time before I knew anything when you were sleeping with her and hanging out with me, and it was still lots of chemistry but zero electricity. Why can't you sleep with her and hang out with me now? Men are so confusing. I don't understand why men say women are confusing. This is more confusing than anything any woman has ever done in the history of the world. Of course, after a few hours, I use the red phone. This time, Craig's colleague Holly comes to the office. Holly is a different bowl of popcorn altogether. She has a mohawk, tattoos, and nose rings. Yet she exudes the grounded gravitas of someone with a serious, dedicated meditation practice. So, Craig told me a little bit about your situation, but I kind of feel like I'm missing something. Yeah, I left out some details. It'll help to know the details. So I tell her everything. She's a bit more expressive than Craig was. Wow, what a fucking piece of shit he is. This is a full-time professional Buddhist speaking. I mean, he is obviously in his own deep, hellish dukkha. That means pain, suffering. But dukkha's more than pain. This is something that he has to keep a secret. So there's shame he doesn't want to look at. So he's deluding himself about the causes and conditions of his pain. But meanwhile, he's being an asshole to you. If you can say these things about him in your role as full-time professional Buddhist, does that mean I can resent him and still be a good Buddhist? Condemnation and compassion can coexist while meditating? Of course. Meditation's just about doing the work. Being present with whatever's right here in front of us. If we didn't have shit to deal with, we wouldn't need to be here, would we? We'd all be walking around blissfully enlightened. Just try to stay curious and attentive to whatever comes up for you. Perseverating, that means thinking obsessively about something. Perseverating isn't the problem. The problem is not being mindful that you're perseverating. That's your papancha, your mental proliferation. Papancha is like when instead of just noticing and accepting something for itself in the moment, your mind goes off on all these stories about it. Those stories are papancha, and that's what torments you. I mean, it'll be great to get past the perseverating, but the way to do that isn't to somehow try to get over it. Don't repress it. Don't ignore it. Sit with it. Be with it. Okay, so I'm familiar with that principle, but spending the rest of the weekend immersed in it? The thought makes my palms sweat. Right? My heart is pounding so hard my ribcage throbs. Yeah. In fact, and I can't help thinking about what to do when the noble silence ends. Sure. In fact, I've been thinking about it so much, I think I've come up with a plan. Remember that charity card I wrote you as an apology? My pledge to be your ally and letting the past go? I still have it. I explain it to Holly. I want to give it to him at the end of the retreat like a mic drop. I want to say, see, you do something crappy to me, but I win because I'm not crappy. I'm offering you the charity we both know you don't deserve. Ha! Take that! And I want to do it right in front of her. Have fun explaining this without revealing how much you've hidden from her, buddy. Oh, man, I totally get you. I'd want to do the same thing in your place. But let's just put that idea on the shelf and don't decide it's the future yet. He is so deluded about the causes and conditions of his dukkha that you're not even a human being to him right now. He couldn't live with the shame. His behavior in the dining hall didn't look like shame. He looked delighted. Sure, but he's gonna come face to face with the fruits of his actions, and part of him knows it. You gotta trust in the lawful unfolding of the universe. I go back to the hall. I sit. I perseverate. I perseverate about our friendship, about our whole history. I've always told people how completely platonic it's been, but actually you did something early on that kind of threw me. Remember, we used to banter over email all the time. One day, maybe 6 months after we met, you wrote, "Do you think men and women can really be friends?" Over the years, I've been asked a similar question by half a dozen other married male friends, and every time it's been code for gauging my interest in something on the side. I just couldn't imagine you, a chummy suburbanite married to your high school sweetheart suggesting such a thing. So I convinced myself you didn't mean it that way, and I replied, well, of course I do. I mean, we're friends, right? That proves it's possible. After that, you sometimes signed your emails, your friend Hal. I never put that together before. So maybe coming from you, it really was an innocent query. And when I replied innocently, you wanted to reassure me how innocent it was. Over and over. For years. No, I'm probably being too harsh in judging you. Whenever I have a falling out with someone, all the good stuff goes out the window, because on top of the upset, I don't want to deal with the grief of loss. And I've lost someone who I believe still exists. The good Hal, my friend Hal, is still real. And if he could just show up for me, I'd show up for him. Who else is going to finish your limericks for you? I miss that puppy dog energy of yours that reminds everyone to enjoy their own inner puppy dog. We all need that. I love how you enjoy asking people about themselves. You have an incredible memory for personal details. I've lost track of how many times I've told you some family anecdote, like how I fixed my grandparents' Victrola when I was 10, and you'll bring it up knowingly years later. Well, you always were the engineer in the family. As if you'd lived through it with me as my imaginary friend. It's always been both flattering and comforting. You listened and you remembered. And I'd feel seen in a way I rarely do. If I am jealous of the minister's wife, which is something I've asked myself a lot since the revelation, it's because my imaginary childhood friend has abandoned me for her. What was our friendship really? What was the magic formula that for years made us such good pals, and who destroyed it? Whatever the answer, we've obviously become pretty codependent, or you wouldn't be spending so much energy trying to manipulate my perception of you. And I wouldn't be spending this precious weekend perseverating on all this. I'm perseverating. Oh, I caught myself perseverating. I'm perseverating with such gusto, I have categories of perseveration. My friendship with your kid. What's gonna happen the next time we're at the sing party with people who still think we're the dynamic duo? Why did you give me that whole song and dance about leaving your church? And when I asked you, why did you give me that whole song and dance about leaving your church, if you didn't want to tell me the truth, why didn't you just make something up to get me off your back? So, I've been thinking about it a lot, and I have come up with two options. Tell me which one is closer. Option one, you're a sociopath. I somehow never noticed. You feel entitled to rewrite history to your preferred narrative just because that's what you want. This is the zero empathy option. Option two, you have feelings for me. Maybe conflicted because they're entangled in a platonic friendship that you value and didn't actually want to destroy, but enough of something to make you feel vulnerable and desperate to keep me from knowing about the other woman in case it ruins chances with me. That's why I'm the person you most want to keep it from. Except your daughter. Sydney is the person you most want to keep it from. Oh, Hal, you're such a devoted dad. And Sydney grew up in that church. Of course you don't want your motherless child knowing you had an affair with your minister's wife. So this brings us to a third option. I was the guinea pig for the story you want to tell Sydney about why you left your church. You were beta testing the lie on me. But this option, like the first one, has zero empathy for me. Researchers do not empathize with their guinea pigs. And here I am perseverating again. We switch to the walking meditation, outdoors. Eyes averted, I make my way out to a spiral path in the woods, trying to focus on my breath, my moving feet, the feel of earth under my shoes, the smell of pine and soil and dead leaves, a soft breeze on my cheek, birdsong, my own footfall, airplanes overhead. But these are all just background. while my mind consciously chews on the much more fascinating details of what a fucking piece of shit you're being because of your dukkha. My writer's mind, custom tailored for Papancha, the stories I create, wonders if you planned this strategically. Maybe the two of you deliberately haven't spoken for 6 months, so you can tell your daughter, hey, remember how our minister got divorced for some reason that had nothing to do with me? Well, his ex and I happened to be at the same meditation retreat because we're both so spiritual, and we happened to be washing dishes together, and to our total surprise, we felt a spark, and now we're dating. And if Sydney wants to tell me about Dad's new squeeze, my choices are to follow along with a deception that devalues me, or be the asshole who speaks truth to innocence. Or maybe I'm all wrong about this. Maybe the two of you are just washing dishes together just because you're pals, and you missed the 3 emails and 2 announcements about avoiding proximity with people you know. Maybe you would have asked me to wash dishes with you too if I hadn't been such a bad friend by demanding to know why you lied. And also, the breeze is gentle on my cheek. And I notice a tiny frog on the path. Somewhere, a robin sings. I hear the sound of slow footsteps, and on reflex, turn my head toward them. It's her. I glance around to see if you're nearby too, but nope, it's just the two of us. She makes her way onto the spiral, eyes averted, absorbed in her own walking meditation. I'm fascinated, watching myself watching her. There's a thrum of discomfort in every vein of my body. It's awful, but it's not her fault, and none of my bad feelings are aimed at her. I try to follow Holly's guidance and just stay interested in whatever I'm experiencing. Her affect is pleasant, but unremarkable. But my fascination isn't with her, and it isn't with the affair either, because after the of finding out about it, adultery is actually pretty boring to anybody not committing it. No, my fascination is with all the rest of it. The things Hal keeps doing to me because of you. Why does he feel the need to continually deceive me about you? Was I the backup plan if things didn't last with you? Was he hoping to end up with both of us somehow? Does he just really like being sneaky? I mean, obviously, yes, that's part of it. But am I the stand-in for the daughter he's desperate to look good to? Am I the stand-in for his wife who punished him whenever she caught him lying? Are both of us just collateral damage of a bereavement he's not dealing with well that makes him want to upset all the apple carts? Am I someone whose opinion matters too much to him, so he has to punish me for knowing he's imperfect, like the kid in Equus who blinds the horses he worships once they see him having sex? Or am I just some inconvenient bump in the road on the way to your fabulous new life together? How odd, Priscilla Yelverton, that I know things about you almost no one else on earth does, while you have no idea this woman on the other side of the spiral has even an indirect connection to you. I could say a single sentence to you right now, a single truthful thing. Hal's hiding me from you, and then walk away. It would explode everything you think you have. But I don't want to do that. I'm too kind and compassionate, despite reports to the contrary. I just want my friend to be my friend again, and I wish I knew what it is about you that keeps him from doing that. You're not to blame, but you are responsible for it. And to you, I'm just some nameless meditator. The walking meditation ends. I watch you cross back into the hall. I feel a funny tenderness toward you. You have your own story, which I know nothing of. And if you and Hal are together, you're with a man who's already being disingenuous with you and will probably become more so in time. And there's nothing I can do to warn you. Back in the hall, after dinner, I noticed myself worrying about finances. Oh, I got distracted by something else. Good for me. But not for long. Okay, you don't want anybody to know anything. I'm the only breach in your defenses. That's why I'm in the doghouse, because of what I could do. So Are you making up stories to tell other people to preemptively invalidate me in case I say something about you? Oh shit, I'm perseverating. Okay, good for me for noticing. Now, let me empty my mind and breathe through it. I know how you'll do it too. Every time you've been deceptive, it's consistent, the same MO. What you do is you winsomely tell me certain truths out of context while leaving other truths out altogether, so you can deceive me without technically uttering a falsehood. That technicality of not uttering a falsehood seems important to you. Is that a religious thing? Okay, so Sydney is the person whose perception you most care about. Since Sid and I are friends, you have to discourage her from wanting to hang out with me. So what story are you going to tell her to accomplish this? Stop perseverating! Maybe you'll tell Sydney, you gotta take what she says with a grain of salt. I told her I had no romantic feelings for her and she got upset and now she's not talking to me. That's saying 3 truthful things in order to tell a lie. Yes, you said you had no romantic feelings for me, but I said the same thing to you a few days earlier. Yes, I am upset with you, but not because of that. And I'm not talking to you because you called me up and told me not to talk to you. Well, at least now it's time for bed. This second night, I sleep a few hours, but I don't like my dreams. Things are improving, though. A little. The next morning, during the walking meditation, the earth and bird and breezes are front of mind. You're now the quiet background drone. Never gone, but never near. There are other people. I notice them. I wonder what's preoccupying their minds if there's no drama to contend with. What would my distractions be if not for this? I can't remember. I mean, I scored big last night worrying about money for 30 seconds, but what else? Nothing that can hold a candle to the soap opera you keep gifting me. Whatever comes into my mind, I let it float in and then float out. I just say, why, hello there, you little perseveration, you. And it gets bored and leaves. On Sunday, 24 hours after I first met Holly, we speak again. I tell her all about where my mind has gone. She's so pleased with my progress, she tears up a little. You're crushing it. That's mindfulness. You're right in the thick of the mindfulness. I've decided not to do the mic drop with the charity card. That's my ego trying to feel superior. I don't want to operate from ego. It's awesome that she got there. Thank you. The next session includes the teachers speaking about compassion. This is the first talk I've been able to fully concentrate on. Compassion, that thing you said I lack. I want to shove my compassion in your face. No, what I really want is to somehow be compassionate. Maybe I'll write a letter. It'll be the most compassionate fuck you letter in the history of fuck you letters. And how do you write a compassionate fuck you letter? I asked Holly. So I have a certain take on this. Compassion isn't saying what you want and using pretty words to make it sound pleasant. When you're truly operating from compassion, you're not attached to outcome. So whatever you do will be right, even if it isn't pleasant. In the lawful unfolding of the universe, it'll be right action. But you can't shoehorn compassion into something that you want. Oh, that's hard. I know, right? Just notice how it feels while you're struggling with it. And accept that you don't know what's going to happen next. Don't decide it's the future. That's your papancha again, the stories you make up about something. Stay in the present moment. And when the final gong sounds, if you're coming from a place of compassion and right action, you'll know what to do. During the walking meditation, and then dinner, and then the walking meditation, and then the sitting meditation, I perseverate on how to achieve what she described. I try to write a compassionate letter in my head. It shouldn't be that hard. I mean, how can I not feel compassion for you? You've lost your wife. You've lost your church community where you were top dog. You have to keep a secret from your daughter literally forever. You can't even keep milk in the fridge without my help, which you no longer have. God, you poor, pathetic man. I wish I could fix things for you. Oh, I should write the letter now while I'm in touch with this compassion. Except, I bet this isn't compassion. I bet this is pity. Because way down here, it's just a little too satisfying knowing that you're unhappy. Yeah, no, not compassion. Okay. Okay, I think I have it. My compassion is about my own state, not yours. Okay, so you have been dishonest, selfish, irrational, manipulative, insulting, and cowardly to me, but I have never responded in kind. No matter how many valid reasons you give me to say things that are vengeful or angry to you, I am never going to do that because I am compassionate. Or perhaps morally smug. Yeah, that's moral smugness, not compassion. Shit. This final night, I still want to write to you, but I still don't know how to do it with compassion. Holly said, don't use pretty words to justify things. Don't be attached to an outcome. Don't require it to be pleasant. But I want to write to you so you can hear me. So, pacing up and down in my dorm room, long after I should have gone to sleep, I try to imagine this whole scenario from your perspective. You're hypersensitive to criticism, which is one of the reasons you're so good at charming people. You've always been able to distract people with charm. And now, lo, suddenly someone you're used to charming isn't charmed, so you're flustered. I have to keep in mind how flustered you are and move past that if I want to communicate with you. Except, no, why is it my job to worry about your needs? This all happened because you've been so disrespectful of my needs, and my only need is for you to be genuine. I'm thirsty. I go to the kitchen to get water, but then I think, what if I run into one of you? What if I get there and see the two of you sitting in silence at a table or something? At this point, it almost seems inevitable. It is inevitable. You both see me. She gets up and runs off. You and I stare at each other for a moment. Hey, that corner up there is exempt from the noble silence. I bet this is a piece of cake compared to when you were a Zen nun in Japan, right? Oh, hey, Sydney's gonna be home from school soon, and she really wants to see you. So after the retreat's over, we'll have to figure out a time to hang out. I'm looking forward to that. No, you're not. What? You called me up and ended the friendship, saying you have to protect yourself from my lack of kindness. What are you talking about? I mean, yeah, I was a little uncomfortable that you kept questioning me. That's why I asked if we could take a little time out. I said we should take a time out. You said, no, it has to be indefinite. Why would I say something like that to someone I like so much? I'm so grateful you're in my life. Look, why don't I just give you a hug and we can move past it? You said it. I spent 20 minutes trying to talk you out of it. You know, I love your imagination, but you can overdo it sometimes. Like, you probably already have some story in your head about what I'm doing sitting alone at a table at midnight, right? You were not alone. So, Sydney's stoked to have you come over. So that's something to think about. So, if I say you weren't alone, I don't get to see Sydney. That's pretty reactionary. I mean, you really seem invested in who I am or am not sitting at a table with. That says something more about you than me. I'm a little worried about it, but I'm willing to look past it and give you that hug. And Sydney's going back to school soon, and she'd hate to miss you. I can call Sydney myself. You know how This encounter is so gratifying because it's only taking place in my imagination. The only thing better than having this conversation in real life is realizing I don't need to have this conversation. I've got better things to do with my time. I fall asleep and wake up around midnight with most of a letter forming in my mind, like glowing neon blue letters writing themselves on a black wall. I find a notebook and pen and hurriedly spill the letter from my brain to the paper. I fall back asleep. When I wake at dawn, I see the letter. I can't remember what I've written. I pick it up and read it. There are no pretty words to justify things, and there is no attachment to an outcome. I know who she is, Hal, so now I understand the phone call, and it pains me that you're repeating the same kind of deception. I know you've been through a lot these past few years. I hope you can heal enough to become the kind of person who doesn't treat any more of his friends the way you've treated me. Please don't mess up my friendship with your kid. I offer you the Buddhist prayer of loving kindness. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you know peace. P.S. No reply expected or desired. I get dressed and put the note in my pocket. This final morning, I'm able, at last, to have one normal, non-perseverating meditation session. It's like drinking a glass of cool water compared to all that's come before. For one heartbeat, I resent not having more cool glasses of water over the weekend. But what I've experienced instead has been far more enlightening. Sometimes the only way out is through. Gratitude overwhelms me. And the gratitude is for Hal. When the final gong sounds, I rise with the others to stack my cushions. Hal is in my path of travel. I take the note out of my pocket and offer it. He accepts it with an unreadable expression, and I walk on. Holly and I have already arranged to meet up. She wants to know how I am before I go back out into the world. I tell her about the perseverating and the letter and the gratitude. It was hell being in it that intensively, but now I feel so liberated. And actually talking to him could never have gotten me here. This weekend could have been so traumatizing, and instead it was the best of all possible retreats. Oh yeah, it was epic. We give each other a hug goodbye, and I go out of I exit the building. All around me, people are meeting up with their friends and family, checking in with each other as they prepare to transition back to normal life. This is something, for months, I'd assumed I'd be doing with Hal right now. For one moment, I wonder what his retreat was like. But only because thinking about Hal's well-being is a habit I haven't shaken off yet. I walk out to the parking lot, get in my car, and calmly drive away into a glorious September morning, into the lawful unfolding of the universe. On the hour-long drive home, I don't think about him once.